My name is Elsa Russo, and I also have a book for sale at the back. It's codenamed Verity. I only have one copy tonight, so I'm sorry. And I know I don't have any paper in my hand right now, and it's because I'm insane, and because my mother at one point in my life actually worked for a while as a professional storyteller. So I watched her, and I was dragged around to all manner of storytelling conventions, and I learned how to tell stories. I'm not very good at reading from paper, so if you'll forgive me, because I'm insane, I will now tell you the short story that I wrote. It's called The Effects of Allergic Reactions to Love and Attachment. I was staring at my computer screen. I was nearing my limit. Here I was chatting on the computer with the man who annoys me most in the world, and I was starting to itch. I'm starting to itch over here, I typed. How about you? Been itching for the past 10 minutes, he replied. I hate this so entirely. Can't they come up with a shot or a pill or something? Well, they say they're working on it, but they never can for long. Why? Do you really have to ask me that question? I didn't. It all started 20 years ago. Everyone started developing a mysterious rash. It was everyone, absolutely everyone, except children under the age of 2. Patients would walk into hospitals with their skin so scratched and raw they had nearly scratched all the way down to their veins. But no one could figure it out. One smart doctor, who had been working on the problem since it started, figured it out one day. He had been working in the laboratory alone for 2 weeks, and his rash was nearly gone. It was about lunchtime, and he was hungry, so he asked his best friend to bring him lunch. The minute his best friend walked into the room, both of them began to scratch quite awfully. He asked his friend to step out again, and they stopped. He asked his friend to step back in again, and again their nails started digging into their flesh. And he asked him to step out again, and again they stopped. Over the next couple of weeks, they began to conduct experiments. The doctor that he hated the most walked into the room, and there was nothing. Neither of them wanted to scratch. Casual acquaintances and strangers even walked in, and again, nothing. Every time his friend walked in, they would start digging into their skin like trying to dig out gold. At first he thought it was just direct contact, but a couple days later, when they were talking on the phone, they stopped talking 2 minutes into the conversation. Then they tried chatting on the computer, but that only gave them a 5-minute respite. Then he made an announcement. I have discovered that disease is not a disease at all. It is an allergic reaction. Our bodies have developed an allergic reaction to the feelings of love and attachment. If you notice, your symptoms only arise when you are talking to someone directly, when you're talking on the phone, or chatting on the computer with a lover, friend, or otherwise close acquaintance. At the moment, I don't have a solution. I will continue working on this until I find one. Over the next year and a half, everyone tried to adapt. Close friends were cut off, families ruined, whole communities split and fractured. At first, we only associated with those we knew casually, those that we just maybe didn't know. But after a couple of years, because we had no one else to talk to, those friendships became close, and then they were cut off. Then we talked to people that we hated, people who annoyed us, people who drove us crazy. A few short years later, same thing. We started to gain attachment to those people. Slowly, one by one, people just started falling off the face of the earth. We all started living in little hermetically sealed apartments. Our food and supplies delivered to us by people who are unseen. Hardly anyone goes out anymore unless their job requires it. I'm sorry, my friend said on the computer. I'm so really, really sorry. I'm sorry too, I replied. How many do you have left? It was a common question now. How many people do you have left to talk to? Is there anyone left? 3, he said, but one of them is starting to make me itch at the end of our conversation, so soon it'll be down to 2. You? You're my last, I said. There's no one left after you. He didn't say anything. He didn't say anything for about 20 minutes. "Do you ever post on the anonymous message boards?" he said. "I do," I replied. "Sometimes it's my only contact with the outside world all day." "So do I. I'll look for you there." I rolled my eyes. He could be such an idiot. "It's anonymous, you know." "Even you still recognize people there, don't you?" "Okay, maybe not that much of an idiot." "I do. Till then." I deleted him from my contact list. Gone. Everybody was gone now. My list that still comically said friends at the top was now completely empty. I turned on the news and listened to the same sad stuff coming from the same sad man, sitting in a room all by himself, reading out reports sent to him by a company. I wondered how long this one would last. The last one blew out his brains on air. Not that I could really blame him. There's nothing to report anymore. There's no crime because nobody goes out anymore. Governments control everything, and nobody can stay in a meeting for more than 10 minutes, so everything gets done quickly and quietly. Then the monthly report about the doctor and his friend came in. Dr. Agar was visited by Michael Stanford today. As per the conditions of the experiment, they have not been near each other for the past month, while Dr. Agar has injected himself with experimental antihistamine drugs. Michael Stanford walked into the room and they spoke for several minutes. At first, the doctor was hopeful. After 20 minutes, he reached out and touched his friend's hand. And it was at that moment they both realized they were dying to itch. They held each other's hands tightly, trying to stay, while the raised red rash spread all over them. Michael Stanford retreated to his apartment in tears. Dr. Agar has also retreated to his private room and has not announced the date of the next experiment, but it is assumed it'll be 1 month from today. I turned off the news. 1 more month down and still no relief. I went back to the computer and I pulled up the anonymous message board. As usual, I am sorry. There was the usual collection of posts. I accidentally saw the man who delivers my food today. He was an old friend of mine. I have to request a new food delivery man and get more calamine lotion. Down to 2 people I can talk to on the computer now. The world keeps getting smaller and smaller. I don't know how much longer I can take this. I'm sorry. I'm sorry to everyone. I don't know why all of you are so upset about being alone all the time. Buck up and deal with it. I scratched my arm absent-mindedly. I knew the second post was from the man that I just deleted. My opinion often wavered between the third and fourth post, and I knew by those that they would be gone soon. I turned off my computer and went to set about making my lunch. I had only a few groceries left, and I'd need to leave a note for the food delivery man soon, but I had to wait until I heard his footsteps go past my door. I cherish few things in life anymore. The footsteps of the delivery man are the best part of my day. Next is the anonymous message board, which is equal parts comforting and depressing. After I had lunch, I would write my few articles for the one newspaper that still exists so that I could make a little money, and then sit down with a cup of tea and reread one of the mysteries from my shelf. I can't remember the name of my last close friend anymore. I can show you the scars I gained because of her. Long scars along my upper arm. I digged my nails in hard then, trying to stay with her as long as I could. I can't even tell you the name of my last lover now. Do know that the scars on the back of my neck are because of him. And there's a long star-shaped scar on his right forearm where he tried to cut into his skin to try to ease the itch and stay longer. Love and friendship had never had such a high price until now. Some died in an attempt to stay together. But I suppose there's a kind of hope. This is the subject of the article I've been working on all week. The children won't have to suffer as we have. When the cause was discovered, all children under the age of 6 were sent away to live in laboratories, some of them at birth. The nurses were constantly rotated so that no one could gain attachment. When they all turned 18, they were allowed to find a new place to live and a job. They do much better in this world than we did. They are not susceptible to the reaction, but then they have never known relationships, and they know no attachments. See, when we sent them all away, they were all carefully taught to avoid any kind of emotional attachment to anybody. And I know that sounds cruel and horrible, but you have to understand, we had seen couples scratch each other to death. We had seen dual suicides because of the maddening itch. We panicked. Because of this, they don't love each other, and they don't feel the need to procreate. Scientists discussed artificial insemination at one point, but the fear that the mother would gain an attachment to her fetus was too great. The women who had been pregnant when this all started suffered like nobody else on this earth. No one likes to think about what happened to them, so nobody talks about it. So cloning and test tube babies are the only things we have left if we want the human race to go on. But then I wonder if we do. I put the finishing touches on my article and put the kettle on the stove to make some tea. I lived on the 5th floor, and I could look down from my window and see the people walking around below it. When I looked down, one person looked up at my window. My heart nearly stopped. It was my last lover. I could remember his face, even if I couldn't remember his name. I pressed my hand to the back of my neck and one to the glass. He raised his arm in greeting, and I could see the scar on his arm. I backed away from the window as fast as I could and shut the curtains. There was an open bottle of calamine lotion on the counter, and I applied it to my neck quickly before I could start scratching. The low whistle from my kettle was slowly starting to rise in pitch, along with the first scream that I had let loose in months. Once the tea was ready, I sat down with my mug in my chair in front of my fire and sat down with my complete collection of Sherlock Holmes mysteries. It had been a birthday present from my last lover. Even with the extra application of calamine lotion, I still scratched my neck briefly. I sat the spine down on my leg, and it fell open to the empty house. One of my favorite mysteries, perhaps my very favorite mystery. Now with the spine bent and cracked, it fell open to the page I turned to the most often, and my eyes went to one line. And so it was at 2 o'clock today that I found myself sitting in my old armchair in my own old room, and only wishing that my dear friend Watson could have been sitting in the other chair, which he has so often adorned. I looked up at the matching chair across from me in front of the fire. Most everyone else had thrown out their second chairs a long time ago. I still kept mine. I suppose I was always waiting for a cure, waiting for a time that I could have a friend in my house, sitting in that chair. For now, I opened my book, sipped on my tea, and put my feet up in the other chair.